problem.
All right, just want to welcome you to Outnumbered this hour. I'm Harris Faulkner. My co-host Kayleigh McEnany is along with us for the live coverage of this hearing in the House Oversight Committee. And they are taking a look at impeachment inquiry issues from 47 members of that committee and whether or not there can be a vote to go forward. So this is the first hearing, the first step. It's impeachment inquiry. Both sides of the political aisle get to call or rather ask questions of the 5 guests before them. And then also there is what they call a minority, meaning the party that's not in control of this committee. They get to call a witness too. And Mr. Gerhardt is there for Democrats today. Also with us, Leslie Marshall and Cheryl Casoni, and of course, former chairman of Oversight, Jason Chaffetz. So welcome to everybody. We'll just take a moment to digest a little bit of what we're seeing. So you kind of sat up, Jason, when they started to pick apart some of the items and evidence. What was catching your ear?
Well, the Democrats' long-term accusation is there's no evidence. There's no tie to Joe Biden. But from Jim Jordan and Nancy Mace, and we just saw a whole litany. Byron Donalds did a great job of laying out actual evidence, text messages. Again, this is what mystifies me because there are 20 shell companies. The only product that they're selling is Joe Biden. That is their main asset. That's what we've heard testimony about. So there's voicemails, text messages, manifests, all kinds of information, particularly the flow of money. And as Professor Turley and others have said, you have to then tie that to actions by Joe Biden as vice president, of which there are some, and those are the allegations.
Yeah, in particular, Florida Representative Byron Donalds, Kayleigh, brought up Hunter and Naomi Biden. And we had seen that. He said this is not a brand new text message, but it's important on a day when you're trying to show, as you said, the flow of money into and out of that family and where it was all going. And Naomi says to Hunter, their relatives, unlike Pop, Dad, you know, the former vice president, I won't make you give me half of your money.
Right.
And so, you know, Byron Donalds is showing that his money was coming in through these business dealings, and all of this is alleged, but they say they have the evidence to prove this, as that money was flowing into the Biden family. Apparently Pop, or is he sometimes called the former vice president, current president, Pop, was getting half of everybody's take.
Pop, the big guy, right? No Democrat has been able to describe to me who the big guy is. So apparently he's some amorphous, imaginary ghost out there, though he's not Joe Biden, they tell us. So, yeah, believe that, guys. But what is interesting is some of the new unearthed messages. So June 6, 2017, Hunter Biden text, I'm willing to sign over my family's brand. And he refers to that as the keys my family's only asset. So his family's only asset, apparently, is his brand. It just gets worse and worse. And this comes, Harris, on the backs of finding out that Joe Biden's home address in Delaware was listed on the wire payments. Why is a 49-year-old man, Hunter Biden, listing Joe Biden's address? This comes on the back of Menendez. There was Hunter Biden information in there when Menendez wanted Joe Biden, the vice president, to speak at a political event. Did he reach out to the vice president's office? No. Alleged in the indictment, he reached out to Hunter's business associate, Eric Schwerin. There are mountains of evidence here. And then one final point that I think just Jonathan Turley has done such a fantastic job being objective on this issue. And he said, you start with crimes when you're looking at impeachment. And he said, then you go down from there and you can end at abuse of power. And enveloped in abuse of power can be false statements, conscripting White House staff to do your bidding on that. So there's a whole range of issues here, and I just want to praise Jonathan Turley for really being objective and fair in all of this.
So moments ago, as we broke away, just to kind of set the scene for you here on this hour of Outnumbered, they took a bit of a break, and we don't know how long this will last. We'll get the details from my team to see how long this vote is expected to take. And of course, these members are doing their jobs. I know that the left has accused the Republicans who are really at the helm in having the majority and going through with this impeachment inquiry. They've accused them of not, paying any attention to the shutdown and other issues on the Hill. But obviously, if people can get up and go vote, they're still doing their jobs. So, it's ineffective for them to make that argument because they, too, are getting up and going and voting. Leslie Marshall, what do you make of the idea that one of the Democrats tried to pin, well, why didn't you take a vote on the impeachment inquiry? And Jonathan Turley very fairly said, I do, and I did when Nancy Pelosi on that second impeachment of former President Trump. I thought they should have taken a vote on that. I mean, it talks to the solemnity, he said, of the moment. And so it's been really fair-handed. But the left seems to want to paint the right in this particular instance as people who just don't have the votes to do anything at this point.
Pretty much deja vu, because the right said the same, about the left. And I want to go on the record, as I did here years ago. I didn't think we should have impeached Donald Trump at the time. I said that to my party.
I remember you said that.
I did not think that was a good idea. And the reason for it is our Constitution, which is a wonderful document. And the way I understand it is Richard Nixon, had he not resigned, should have been impeached. Bill Clinton should have been impeached, because the way I understand and read the Constitution, and the way I believe that and a lot of people who analyze the Constitution believe our founding forefathers meant for it to be, was abuse of power while the person is president of the United States. And, look, in 72 hours, if the government shuts down, politically, this will really hurt Republicans, because voters, left or right, they're not going to remember this. They're going to remember a
Not
government.
according to the ABC poll, 40 to 33 people would blame Democrats. So your party's trying to posture on that.
Since 2016, I don't believe polls that benefit my party or that don't benefit my party. To your point about the address, that was the address on Hunter's driver's license. That's what his attorney has gone on the record saying. Also on the record, if you look at the money that goes to, quote, the Biden family, the overwhelming majority of it went to Hunter Biden. And here, I hear a lot of evidence to impeach Hunter Biden.
Sure she didn't have to give her half, apparently.
I hear a lot of never that could certainly impeach Hunter Biden. The problem is that Hunter Biden is and never was and never will be president of the United States.
The goal isn't to go after somebody who's not in office right now. Hunter Biden, I'm hoping, I mean, he's going to have to explain how he was doing what he was doing without being registered as a foreign agent for this country and making business deals and going around the world, particularly with that energy company in Burisma. And interesting timing to have that conversation, because that's, of course, located in Ukraine. But you talk about abuse of power as president. And actually, the GOP laid out what they want to answer in this impeachment inquiry. 3 of the 4 key items are, did Joe Biden as vice president and or president? So they're looking for things that he also has done as current. The 4th item is only as president. Did Joe Biden abuse his power as president to impede, obstruct, or otherwise hinder investigations, including congressional investigations 188 or the prosecution of Hunter Biden? So they're looking to see if there is a trail with all of this money that would lead to the vulnerability to bribery or other things with the president through his son and his son's illegal action. They're looking to see, was that current? Was that not just when he was vice president, but also currently? So it addresses your issue and, by way of what you just said, possibly meets the threshold to get us to today for impeachment inquiry.
Yeah, well,
Cheryl.
you're talking about the tax charges and the gun charges. And in particular, when it comes to the tax charges, we talked about this before. Those were very serious charges. And what he was accused of, most Americans would have been put in jail or fined, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars by the IRS. And so he got that sweetheart deal with the tax. But I want to go back to Jonathan Turley for a second, because I felt, I've got his written statement right here. Read this. Jonathan Turley did his research. He came today prepared, and he's getting attacked because they're trying to discredit him. If you read his statement, he really does make it very clear, and I'm hoping he gets a chance to defend himself in the next few minutes or so. He said, I do believe the impeachment inquiry is warranted. I don't believe the evidence currently meets the standard of a high crime misdemeanor. He said that. But here's the thing. But the illusion of access is what he says needs to be investigated. And this goes back to the bank records. Nancy Mace joined me on Fox Business a couple of weeks ago. She has seen those bank records. They're not public yet. And she told me, she said there is over $50 million in payments. But again, we don't have those records. What Jonathan Turley is saying, he's making a perfect point here. This is why you hold the inquiry. This is why you look for the evidence to find out if there was something improper done with these, these shell companies, these LLCs. Give me a break.
But you said that's where we should look.
Yeah,
as the American people, I remember weeks ago you said, well, if you just will look if these businesses are really just holding factors for moving that money around. Just one quick follow-up, though, with you, Cheryl, because I am curious to know, 50 million. When do we ever, as a public, even need to see all of that? Can Republicans just simply lay out their case and vote on impeachment in a full House and move forward? Or do you think it's necessary for the American people to see every single document that they have?
Well, according to the polls, my apologies, Leslie, but according to the polls, about half of America does believe that this needs to be investigated and that Joe Biden
no, that
potentially.
we need to see it.
I would like to see it. Yeah, I do want to see. I think that where the rubber meets the road is going to be the bank records. That's my opinion.
But it's
and
not
I want
required.
to see that.
It's not required.
It's not. It's not required. And I just wonder where we are politically. You know, people do want their issues to be worked on, and if it takes forever to show every piece of evidence, or if you can make your case based on all that, and do what you need to do, have things adjudicated that need to be. I just wonder: are we really going to hold everybody hostage for that? Or do we need to?
You know, I think one thing that Jonathan Turley said that I hadn't heard before, but I think is important. When we talk about the bank records, I agree that's where the rubber meets the road. But the idea that millions going to your family is not a benefit is fallacious, is what Jonathan Turley said. So there's a lot here, but what we know are the three things. Biden spoke falsely. Biden's at the center of a multi-million-dollar influence peddling scheme, and Biden may have benefited. His family, his granddaughter certainly did.
I mean, when you mention a number like $50 million, I don't need to see every document. I just want to know what they did to get that money. Because no one just gives you $50 million.
From multiple countries, Romania, Ukraine,
No one.
China.
So what did you do to earn the money? What access, whatever it was?